Wednesday. Welcome to another installment of Trades Lady Happy Hour. I am at the shop today. I've been working all day on the Iron Maven all-female build, and so I'm excited to have my happy hour guest today be joining me live right here with me. So like live with you guys. If you read the post introducing today's happy hour, my lovely guest tonight is Jana Warnke. She is an incredible woman. I've met her through the all-female build. She's been out a couple of times. And I just, we've done a lot during these happy hours of women who've been in the trades for a really long time. We've done a lot of women kind of earlier in their careers, but I really wanted to kind of do a nod to the future generations of technicians coming up, but also address some of the issues of people who are just getting into the automotive world and maybe making a career choice or career change later in their life. So Jana is a fantastic opportunity to share kind of all of those parts and pieces, celebrate the future of the industry, and also address making a major change in one's life later in their career. So without further ado, come on, Jana, slide on in. Oh, hey. That's not weird at all, right? So everybody, this is Jana Warnke. Jana, this is everybody.
Hi, everybody.
So we are drinking tonight, not my usual whiskey, because we are at the shop, and I am an idiot and forgot to bring good whiskey with me. So a nod and a thank you to Dee and Lauda, who left some Apple Crown here at the shop last time they were here. Tastes a little bit like flavored cough syrup. But, it'll do. But, anywho, cheers to everybody. All right, so we are going to jump right in with this. Jana, can you just, really kind of briefly tell everybody, what you're doing currently?
So currently, I am in school. I have 3 months left, and it's my drivability quarter, which will wrap me up, and I'll be starting out in a new career as an apprentice in September. I'm really excited and really scared, but I'm enjoying it, and I've learned to just kind of roll with the punches. I don't know, do you want me to go into that?
Well, we'll go back in time now a little bit. So I know, is it okay, am I allowed to ask a lady how old she is? Or around?
I'm not shy about
these
details. So I'm 37 this year, yep.
So 37 years old, deciding to go back to school. I hear a lot of people talk about, how it's too late now, or they've always wanted to do something different with their life, whether it's going into automotive or welding, or whether it's to go be a lawyer, or whatever it is that you might want to do with your life that is different than what you've done. And people think, oh, I'm too old now. Did you have that fear when you were deciding at 37 to go back to school?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to put it into perspective, my kids are the age of the students that I'm in class with. So I'm the mom at school and the mom at home, and it makes me kind of feel like I do feel like I belong there, and they're incredibly inclusive. They're really young and open-minded, and they're fabulous humans, but it made me feel like I don't belong there initially. I thought that maybe I was past my prime, and they were so fast picking up new skills, and I was like, oh man, what have I got myself into?
How long did that feeling last, or do you still have that feeling sometimes?
I still have the misgivings every once in a while where I'm like, oh man, I would have been in this field for 20 years if I would have started when they started. But I do have another kind of facet where I've learned myself a little bit more, and I'm able to manage higher amounts of stress, and I have a background owning a business, and those kind of things have helped me to just realize that I'm capable, and that I need to give myself a little bit more grace in those moments and just kind of work through it the way that they are. I mean, I get to be new. There's no reason why I should have to be great at something I've never done before.
Amen to that. And how often do we do that to ourselves though, really? Yeah. I'm not good at it immediately. I just took up this new thing and I'm not good at it right away.
Yeah.
Like,
It's unrealistic.
No, yeah, nobody's good at anything, the first time you do it. Like, not even walking. We weren't good at it the first time we tried it.
No, I was chilling.
And adorable. So, this isn't a new thing for you, though. Like, cars wasn't like, you didn't wake up just randomly one morning and be like, I think I want to be a mechanic. How did that start?
So, it started watching my dad work on a 72 Impala in our backyard. And, for a younger girl, I was in 5th grade at the time, and I just remember being told that I wasn't strong enough, and so it was like beyond my reach, and I think that almost kind of made me more so excited about trying to touch a car, because I'm like, wait, they said I couldn't do it.
I can't relate to that at all.
So is that a dare?
Yeah, tell me I can't is the best way to get me to do something.
Yeah, so that was kind of what imprinted on me, was changing out a distributor cap, trying to understand what the tools did, and then running away with the shop manuals up to my room and like hiding and trying to figure out what I was looking at, and I just couldn't put them down, and it was like a bug, like almost like a travel bug. It just bites you and you just can't stop thinking about it, where the next place is or what the next car looks like.
So, but you didn't pursue it as a kid?
No, I didn't. I was definitely stifled by just an old-fashioned mentality. There was a lot of, you're not strong enough. I heard that specifically. I had a couple of people laugh in my face when I mean, literally, like, in my face when I told them that that's what I wanted to do, and they were like, well, how are you going to do that? Like, there was something specific about me that would hold me back from that. And I thought they meant that I wasn't smart enough. They didn't necessarily ever say, you're not smart enough to do it, but, it was hurtful. I was young enough to just be very impressionable and a little bit of a people pleaser, so I wanted to, like, smooth it over, and I was discouraged out of it when I was very young, and then I was discouraged out of it again when I made an actual final attempt and got on the wait list for the school that I'm now in.
You got on the wait list for school when you were young, too?
When I was 18.
Okay.
And I came back exactly 18 years later to that same school.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and this time I didn't have a wait list. I just got shotgunned right in, and I was ready to go. So that was fantastic, because I didn't have time to, like, backpedal and scare myself out of it.
What was it that finally kind of gave you that, like, screw it, I'm doing it, I'm going for it? Because I think a lot of people dream about it, they think about it, they have a dream that was squashed when they were a kid or whatever the case is, and then they get to this place where, like, they really want to do something different, but they don't have the thing that pushes them over the edge to go do it. What was that thing for you that said, this is it?
So the thing was that the very first classic, everybody has that one car that they end up, it like slips out of their fingers. They either sold it and regret it, or something happened to it and they didn't get to do anything with it. I had a 61 Fury when I was 18 that was taken from me. And so that was a little tough. And here's how it really happened. My son...
Yeah, tell us how it really happened.
My son wrecked my car, and we kept trying to find all these mom cars, but I'm not a mom car kind of mom. And I walked past a classic car shop that had a Corvette, a 69 Corvette, in the window, and I thought, okay, I want that car. And then I thought, well, maybe I should still be able to fit my kids in the back seat. Helpful. They're older and they have their own cars, but you go do like a family thing. We want to roll out together. Mm-hmm. So I found my T-Bird, and as soon as I got it, I started fiddling with it and noticed there were some things that needed help. And I thought, for one, I don't want to get electrocuted. It's just basic things like that. And for two, like, I know that I could figure this out if I had a little bit of training and some awesome people on my side to help me through. And that's when I just looked at my husband and said, I love being an artist. I love the artist mentality, but I'm tired of pouring my soul out onto canvases for people or whatever way that I did my art. And I said, I really like to do something that's just got a little bit more depth to it than what I'm working with right now. And he encouraged me to go back and said, hey, girl, I'll pay for your school with my GI Bill because he's an amazing military soldier.
Yay to supportive husbands and
Yes,
partners.
cheers to that. So,
I love that.
yeah. Me too.
So there's a lot of like kind of stuff that I want to like talk about in there. Where do we begin?
It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. So you decide that it's time. You want to go back to school. You want to tackle this stuff yourself. Was there a moment where you hesitated when he said, "Yes, let's do this"?
I don't think I've ever stopped hesitating.
Interesting.
I think it's a daily, like, okay, you have to just go do it, because it's the one thing that's stuck in the back of my head. It was the thing that every time I spoke about it to somebody, I would get choked up. I'm not a crier. So that was like, it felt like it was stolen from me somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like this heartbreak. And so now, because it meant so much, it's a risk to open myself up to it, because I could disappoint myself or someone else. So that was tough. And he's definitely been in my corner the whole time while I'm going, I don't know what was I thinking? And he's like, you're thinking you're capable and you love cars, and that should be enough, right? And he's right, but it's really hard to admit that, every day. So it's still a struggle for me.
So there's an interesting kind of piece. You were saying something to me about this today, and I wanted you to share this. So what does your husband do for a living?
My husband is a paratrooper in the Army.
And so he jumps out of planes fearlessly on the regular.
He is a fearless man.
And
an adrenaline junkie.
There was something you said about that I thought was a really powerful thing. Do you remember what you said? That he jumps out of planes fearlessly, and you are scared and don't want to, but do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think there's like this piece of what you just said, right? Of like, I hesitate every day. I'm a little scared every day. I question every day. So how do you do that, right? For your husband, it's fearlessness. It's a plane. I'm going to jump out of it. I'm going to go, whether metaphorically or literally. For you, it's, I'm scared. I acknowledge I'm scared. I'm going to do it anyway. How do you do that? How do you muster that? What is your way of conquering that?
I'm drawn to communities just in general. I love to know people and how I love their stories and how they have gotten where they're at. And I tend to look for just everyday heroes, the people that I know that will inspire me and that I can watch from afar and be their cheerleader, but also know that I can also be in their inbox and say, hey, I'm struggling. What can I do to get out of this mentality? This woman right here is one of those people that have pulled me out of the muck and mire when I get into my own brain too deep. And I have a really sweet friend back in Washington that does the same thing as Emily. So it's finding your people. And actually, there's handfuls of people that are covering so many different aspects of this journey for me that are here to support me. And I just have to tell them that I'm a little scared and I'm a little new. And they help me out. That's really what's gotten me through, is just being really communicative and not being worried about being vulnerable in that way, because I feel like it's missing from this industry, and if more people would voice how that feels, I think we would all be really good teammates. So,
amen to that. Yeah, I think there's something really, really powerful in what you just said about being willing to be vulnerable and be open and ask for help, I think, and acknowledge when you're scared, right? I think a lot of times we want support, we need support, and we don't let anybody know that we need support. And then we're upset when we don't get it, right? And the power of just saying, I'm new, I'm scared, I don't know what I'm doing, even when you do know what you're doing, which she often does. But having that fear is something really powerful to give you the ability to reach out and say, I need help.
Yeah.
And when you do that, the resources that come to you and the support that comes to you is a really cool thing, and how important that is to be successful.
Absolutely, because I always tell myself, if I don't have fear, I can't have courage. So it's like, that's what pushes me forward, is I'm like, okay, well, that's an opportunity to prove to myself that I can be courageous and move forward. And that makes it hard, because I'm like, dang it, Jana, if you made sense, you gotta do some things. Dang.
All right. All right, so before you got into cars,
yeah.
I want to rewind a little bit in your life.
Sure.
Do you mind talking about your past careers?
Oh, absolutely. That'd be fun.
Because I think it's interesting. We sometimes think of traditionally male, traditionally female jobs. We think of jobs that maybe have nothing to do with one another, or do have nothing to do with one another. Mm-hmm. And you have a very diverse past of things that you've done. And I love it. So what did you talked a little bit, alluded to being an artist. So tell me a little bit about that.
So most recently I was a sculpture and print artist, illustrator, and that came out of just a need it was just necessity, and also working by myself, because we had recently moved from Tennessee to Washington State. And before that, when I was in Tennessee, I was a certified nail technician with an advanced nail tech certificate. So I worked with people that were medically challenged in some capacity where they needed extra help. And I was a nail technician, and I just did some fancy, very ghetto nails.
And when she says fancy, I don't know if any of you swiped through the photos in the post, but that's mild for what she does, the snap-on nail set, which I think is just so freaking cool. I mean, she did insane stuff. She was an artist in little teeny tiny stuff. And so you were a salon owner.
Yeah, salon owner.
For how many years?
So I owned the salon for 5 years total. And during that time, I traveled and taught just within the United States. And I was also an instructor at a technical college for nail technicians. So that was a lot of fun. It was like a multifaceted career in that way. So lots going on.
Have you found any crossover of skill set? Is there... Go ahead.
Yeah. So as far as the crossover goes, there's a ton. For one, nail product has always been based off of how cars are made. So whether it's their paint or their fiberglass or the gel coatings that they're using, it's all coming from this industry specifically, which is really neat. And when I was working for the company that I worked with, I was able to do R&D for them, and we find ways to apply all those automobile-based paints in a way that's safe for skin. Yeah. But what makes it really cool too is that I was sanding all day, but we didn't call it that. We called it filing.
Same thing, different name.
Yeah. And it was just a smaller surface. I used pinstriping brushes. It was based off of an individual need. You work off of the shape of a nail the same way you work off the shape of the hood of a car. So a lot of those things carried over. And then the things that didn't necessarily seem like they carried over were, fixing nail drills. Pulling those apart, that made me really happy. Oh, it's broken.
Oh, shucks, I have to take it apart.
So that was a lot of fun. And then you get that detail-oriented brain where it's just every tiny little piece of something is in front of you, and you can zero in on the thing that's causing a problem or something that needs to be eliminated, and those kind of things help me with vehicles now. So it's pretty fun.
I love it. So when I first met you, you were not really sure what area you were interested in with cars. You liked cars overall. You were intrigued by kind of learning all of the things, but you weren't sure, is metal work or body work or mechanical or electrical or You were scared of electrical, weren't you?
Oh, yes, still am.
Like, what area, you weren't sure what area you wanted to go. We'll come back to the fear of electrical. We'll come back to that one. Because I think a lot of people have a fear of electrical, so I think we should talk about that one. But you weren't really sure. How has that process been going for you, and what are some of the different areas you've explored, and why have you maybe like eliminated or pulled some in that you didn't initially think?
So when I think about when I first met you, I had said specifically, I love transmissions and I love engines, and that has never changed. Both of them make me incredibly happy. So I think that's something that's just, I knew in my core, based off of just how drawn that I am to the actual mechanisms themselves, how they work, and they're really pretty. I like sparkles.
Unless it's metal sparkles in your oil, in which case it's not a good thing.
Or if it's like slivers in your arms, which we've been doing all week. That's fun. But yes, I felt like it was artistry. I love the bodies of cars. However, I don't know that I'm as drawn to it as I think maybe I have a little hang up there because I was running away from being a nail technician. I was over it. So I think that kind of, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of dust. That looks a lot like a giant nail. I'm going to run away now.
A big giant.
Yeah. And I really like the super greasy, dirty, under the hood, like complete little beater car. Like that's, my heart is there. So I think that's where I belong, but I would love to eventually become a resto mod kind of specialist if I can find my way into it. It's all about classics and all about power for me, so that makes me really happy, and I think those things have stayed true the entire time. I kind of got sidetracked thinking I would be better at what I already partially know, but that's not why I started this. So
did people ever try to convince you in certain directions?
Every single person that meets me tells me to do something different. Every single person. One person will say, you belong in auto body. Absolutely, I can't even, like, this is where you belong. And then the next person is like, you belong in performance engines. And the next person is like, you are just an absolute little weirdo that wants to hang out in a cave by yourself. Why don't you build a transmission? And they were not wrong.
Okay.
But at the same token, I don't want to limit myself now and not experience the things that I think I could love because of what anyone else says, because I did that before. And that's why it took me so long to come back. It took me 18 years to come back. So I'm like, this is going to be about me. I know myself pretty well. I've been coaching other humans how to live for the last 19 years as a parent. So I'm gonna stick to my guns and just hope that I hope somebody adopts me. It just says, you belong with us. And
I don't know if she knows this, but that's kind of what has happened here at Girl Gang Garage, is that she has gotten adopted. So you've recently been kind of going through this, school's coming close to an end.
Yeah.
Getting an apprenticeship, getting a first job, dealing with all of that. How has that process gone for you?
The interview process was great. I think what I was looking for was somewhere that would just not notice that I was a woman. But I think that was the wrong interpretation of what I should be looking for, and maybe have somebody actually nod to the fact, oh, you're a woman, and that's not going to change anything. And that was actually what I needed to hear. So the process was pretty simple. I did my research and I talked to my instructors and friends and said, hey, what do you think I should do? What do you think about this shop? What do you know? And tried to kind of feel places out from there. The students at my school, a lot of them have jobs already. So I was able to talk to them and they're like, don't go there. Or, yeah, that place is amazing. I actually put in an application there too when I found out. So between knowing who to talk to and then you're always interviewing the interviewer as the interviewee. Yes. So I made sure to ask the questions that I needed to know, and I think that I found a great place to start to grow.
How many interviews did you go through to get there?
4.
Okay.
4 at the same shop. So it was a very intense.
That is a very intense process. So it was the first place that you interviewed at?
It was the only place that I put in an application for it, and that was specific.
Okay.
Yes. I was very specific.
So doing research first, right?
Yes.
Like we hear a lot about that. People saying, "Oh, I've applied," and for myself too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I applied at a gazillion places when I was first starting out, and had such a hard time getting my foot in the door in my first job and first opportunity, and got laughed out of more stores and shops than I can imagine, or can remember, I should say. But you were strategic,
Yes,
about it, and like didn't even go to the places that were gonna laugh you out. It sounds like.
Well, I kind of made a mistake at one point and said that I would love to shadow while I was still in school for a couple of hours after school, and the guys told me that I could go to the back and get their beers, but that's all I would be able to do for them.
Say that again for the people in the back who might not have heard that.
So I walked in and said, I'm going to work for you for free for a couple hours after school if you can find a way to let that happen. And I was there in my neighborhood, so I was like, oh, I can just walk there. It would be great. And I was really excited because it was a European job. And so, yeah, but they just said, we'll be on the verge of closing down by the time you get done with school, but you can always stop by and grab us a beer from the back.
Like, how does anybody still say that to another human being, regardless of gender, in this day and age?
I just told them it was a party I didn't need to be privy to. And I just walked out.
Yeah.
Thanked them for their time.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you do? I mean, what do you say to that? I can't tell you that I'm actually really helpful and quite strong and can handle myself. I'm not gonna. There's nothing to say after that. They didn't. Yeah, they don't care.
And that's perfect, right? Like, what can you say? What can you do? Like, at the end of the day, they don't care. They're not a shop you want to work at.
Right.
Right?
No. And it was just, you hear all these stories about how people start out. And they sound like this beautiful poem about, like, yeah, we were in the garage and nobody would listen to us. And then we, like, went to this place and this one person saw this beautiful thing in us. And then we, like, were propelled forward. And then they're like, get us a beer, girl. And I was like, okay, well, that was the movie. And I'll just keep it simple and I'll focus on getting good grades. And then I will go do my job where I'm being paid and valued. It's not hard.
I think that's a really important point, and I know we all struggle with this from time to time, like what it looks like on the outside looking in versus the actual experience, right? And like how often it's easy to look at like, oh, this person had this easy, successful life. They went to school, they got a job, they had this blossoming career, and it was easy. And the reality is how many doors did they knock on first to get there, and what struggles did they go through to get there first? And we often don't hear about that part of the story. And it ends up leaving people feeling like there's something wrong with them, right? Like there's like, oh, it must be something about me because everybody else had it. So easy.
Right. I think that it's just you're interpreting things that you just don't know the full story to. It's that picture of that tiny iceberg and the whole giant bit of it is underneath the water. I mean, you just don't know all the pieces that went into getting there. And a lot of times we're waiting for someone else to open a door for us that we're perfectly capable of opening ourselves. So
absolutely that. Yeah. Absolutely that. Yeah. You said earlier, like I think it's so important that we share our experiences and share our fears and share all of those things because it makes all of us feel less vulnerable. And that's kind of like what I hope in this kind of thing, in these happy hours, to do is because I think a lot of people, it resonates what you've experienced. And
I know they've helped me. I love watching happy hours, seeing all these kick-ass people.
Yeah. How much longer do you have in school?
3 months. That's it, guys. 3 months.
It's super exciting.
I've never graduated anything besides nail school, so I'm pretty excited to have a degree.
How does your family, how are your kids about this?
So my son graduated last year, and I think it's pretty neat that he's watching mom graduate this year. He's really proud of me. Well, they're all very proud of me. Obviously, my husband is like my huge support system and takes incredible care of my brain when I go down rabbit holes. But they've all been so amazing. The women in my family specifically have been like, get it, girl. My aunties are like ready. They know all about everything that's going on, and they're telling me things. They're asking me what kind of cars I'm working on so they can tell their friends, and it's neat to see everybody finally kind of come together and lose that old idea that because I'm a woman, I shouldn't or couldn't do this specifically.
Absolutely. And you have a job that you've already started?
A job that I've already started?
Yeah. The racetrack?
Oh, yes, I have. Sorry, I was like, wait, no.
Yeah, so she's still in school and she's just started doing...
So I am crewing a race car this year. It goes back to shiny engines. And last year I was able to go out and be part of a crew and just kind of watch and understand how everything runs for a pro mod, for a drag strip kind of run. And this year, the race car driver, John Used Basic, at Used Basic Motorsports, he called me, or he actually messaged me and said, I don't know if you remember me. And I was like, oh, yeah, how could I forget? I know exactly what car we're talking about. And he said, I'd love to have you be the crew chief this year, which that's it. It's me. I'm the crew. I'm the whole crew. So that sounds fancy, but I'm the whole crew. So we're running it, we're tuning it, and just kind of getting it ready for re-licensing. And we're pretty excited because COVID put a huge wrench in everything, no pun intended. And so now we're cruising pretty quick. I'm excited. It's really pretty.
I love it. And it's okay to call engines and cars pretty. I think that's okay. Like,
if it's not, then I've been doing things wrong for a little while.
Absolutely. Were you, and I know the answer to this already, but were you intimidated taking this job, and did you ever question your abilities?
I had to talk to Boki.
And lots of other people too, I'm sure.
And the race car driver, I was like, you do know that, like, this is fast and dangerous, right? I also have a mentor that was one of my instructors in school that since moved on to a different opportunity. But yeah, I'm scared of everything. So again, here we go back to that. I was afraid that people would ask me a question about the engine that I didn't know the answer to, and that I would be like that girl. But when it comes down to it, adjusting the engine, whether I can say it exactly the way you want to hear it or not, I am more than capable, actually very, very capable of doing. And I'm capable of making sure that the driver is safe because I have a mom brain that is out of control. I will protect everything.
Again, transfer of skills here.
So everyone kind of just said the same thing. They were like, do you think you would be asked to do that if you weren't capable of doing that, Jana? Yeah. And I had to just kind of take a step back and learn to have faith in myself and just go for it because honestly, like, dream job for me, like, so exciting. And I'm out there, I'm doing it, guys.
So anybody out there having fears, having, hesitations about doing the things that you want to do or feeling like you may not be confident or you may not be able to do it, like, you just do it.
That's true.
Like, you just do it. How has your boss been about all of this? Like, your race car driver that you're working with, like, how does he respond with you?
Incredible. So, I wasn't very good at towing it or riding a four-wheeler. and he's been incredibly patient. I got it down in one day. It took me one day, and then like our third run, that was it. I had it down. It was a really sharp, like this jackknife turn, and I'm like, I have the fanciest pro mod right behind me, and everybody's staring at us, and I'm like messing things up and bending the tow bar, and the wheels are coming up, and I have like other race car drivers sitting on the quad trying to hold it down so that the traction from the back wheels can scoot itself around the corner. And he was like, girl, I don't know how to do what you're doing. Like, that's why you're doing it. And I knew it was going to take time. And everyone that tows this car finds out that the back wheels are meant to stay straight. And they don't really turn so that he was incredibly, he had so much faith in me, and he was incredibly kind with the way that he delivered that information. But he's also like, and if I see you doing something I don't like, I'm going to say very respectfully, hey, we can't do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I love when people are upfront with me. So that's fantastic. I just need someone to tell me what they want, and I'm going to do it. And he was like, you know what, this time, don't swing it wide like a semi, cut that around the corner. And everybody around us that was like, oh, here comes this yellow car again, starts cheering because they didn't have to jump on the front of my quad to help me around the corner, and they weren't like having to coach me through it. They were like, yeah, girl. And, you know, it was a great moment, and it wouldn't be like that if he wasn't so welcoming and open-minded about this whole process. But, you know, his whole goal is to get more women on the drag strip in charge of the cars, making sure they run right, making sure they're dialed in, making them faster than any other car that's out there, which is, you know, that's easy with this car. Yeah. That's an easy one. We gotta dial it back.
I think there's so much in that for those who are listening. Like, you know, we talk, obviously I'm interviewing women. Every week I'm interviewing another woman in the industry, and there's a reason for that, because I think their stories need to be heard, and I think people need to know that there are a ton of amazing women out there doing awesome things. But like the reality is we love our male allies, we love our male mentors and people who are supporting us and making opportunities for us and cheering us on, and like that's how you're a good mentor. That's how you're a good ally.
Absolutely.
Right? What she just explained is that's it.
There are so many gentlemen in this field. There are truly, and they're incredible. So I completely agree. It's just being able to say enough words to get it across, but also saying them in a way that's like, oh, I'm still talking to a human being. That's it. That's all it takes.
Yeah, giving opportunity as well. I see that there's a question. I want to check it out. Okay, neither of those. So, somebody asked earlier, so in the comments that asked if you were allowed to ask questions. Yes, absolutely. Please do ask questions. If you have any, don't do it in the comments. We probably won't see them, but in the little bottom side, there's a little question mark, talking bubble, and you can press that and type in a question, and we're happy to answer those as long as they're decent to answer.
You got a mama in here. Don't
right? Speaking of moms, how do you balance all of that? Like, that's another thing that I think people tend to use as I hate to say it, but as an excuse for changing careers later in life, or following their dreams, or whatever. It's like, I can't because I'm too old. I can't because I'm a mom. I can't because I don't have enough money, or whatever the excuses are. How is that?
So raising kids is wild when you're a military wife specifically, because you're a mom, but you're like mom with a super scary mean voice when daddy goes away for periods of time. And because John is gone often, I've had to kind of take up both sides, which is actually part of the reason why this was put on hold so long. My kids being the ages that they are make it easier. And it's parents of younger children they have a lot to kind of juggle, and so I'm not taking away from that whatsoever, because that is very, very, very difficult. My experience has been that my kids know how to feed themselves, can get themselves from point A to point B, and I, therefore, can be, quote unquote, what you would call a mom, I wouldn't say this about dad, selfish for taking care of myself and my career and my goals and my opportunities.
Have you been called that?
Absolutely. And irresponsible.
For going back to school?
For working on cars while having children. This is when I was 18, I had my first son. So I was working on my Plymouth Fury back then, and that was irresponsible to take my son with me to work on my car. You know, if you got a picture of a dad working with his baby on a car, it's like, see, you're raising them right. They're getting all this work in and learning the ethics. And with me, it was like, girl, you're irresponsible. Get out from under that car and go get you the desk job that we know you're going to need. So,
do you feel like in that time things have changed? I mean, obviously your perspective and who you are has changed. Do you feel like the world has changed?
Yeah, I do. I have so much faith in what has happened since then. Even the same people that like laughed in my face will be the people that are like, all right, I see what you're doing. That's pretty awesome. Like, I heard you're on the honor roll, or, you know, they're proud of me. And so people change. I mean, even that mentality can switch. You know, they grew up, they were conditioned to believe that I should not be doing this because I'm tall and skinny and goofy and just a silly kid still. And they thought, you know, that it wasn't for me because I don't know, I guess I didn't have the look, but I had the mind, and even their minds can change, and then they start to raise people the way that they're starting to develop those beliefs. And the kids that I'm in school with, sorry, I called you kids in case you're watching, they are incredible. That next generation that are around my son's age, they're like, oh, they lack work ethic. No, they don't. They're out there getting stuff done. And they are so accepting of me. And every day I tell them I'm old, and they're like, no, you're not. They're like, I get that you have a kid my age, but you are not old. Because my mentality is we keep learning, you know, stay young. So, yeah, I think it's going to be good for everyone. I think that the world is changing, and the eyes are being opened, and the ones that aren't, I guess they're missing out. So,
for folks out there who are in school, especially young women in school, but I would say young men as well, what are some of your survival tips? You know, ways to excel, ways to succeed, ways to get through school.
Man, that's a really good question. The first one is, don't let them take the tool out of your hand.
That's a good one.
Because
tell me about that. Elaborate on that a little bit.
When I first started school, I had a specific few guys that would either take the tool from my hand or hand me the tool, until one of the other male techs barred them from doing such things ever again. And he was very boisterous about it. He was kind of, it was great. So what ended up happening was, I noticed that if you hold on to the wrench, when they go to pull it out of your hand, they realize they were pulling it out of your hand and that you were capable of doing it, and that's why you had the wrench. So, a little bit petty, hang on to the wrench. That's my first.
I think that's really valid, and there's like more to this. Like, so part of it is hold on to the wrench, right? But the other part is, like, I don't know that men, and I think a lot of women do this probably too. I don't think they necessarily realize what they're doing, right? This goes back to that, like, how to be a good mentor thing. Like, I'm sure you've experienced this. I'm sure a lot of people watching have experienced this, where you ask a question, and what happens instead of being told the answer or explained or taught is they just kind of like push you out of the way and do it themselves. Right? And I don't know that it's necessarily intentional. I think people do it by accident. Yeah. Like, they just want to get in and do it, and that's not helpful.
No, it doesn't, especially for a hands-on learner.
Yeah.
That actually sets us back, and then they go, well, we've done this before. No, you've done this before, Buttercup. That's who's done it. I don't know how to do this. You have to allow me the time and give me the consideration. So, yeah. So definitely don't let them take the tool out of your hand. Just tell them, I can do that. Yeah, that's why I have the tool in my hand.
Yeah.
That actually made me like cower into myself when I first started school. I don't think anybody would attempt to take a wrench out of my hand now.
Because you built that confidence,
right?
And there's different ways to handle that, right? Because what you want to do is scream or like punch them in the face or be aggressive, right? And yet, like her advice of just hold on to the tool, right? Or to just say, I won't ever learn this if you don't allow me the opportunity to do it.
Mm-hmm.
How powerful that is, because it's remembering that people don't necessarily mean to do it, that they just need that momentary check of, dude, show me how to do it, or let me do it, teach me how to do it.
Yeah, because they're all doers, so they all want to do the thing that's going to get to the next part of the goal. So I'm not aggressively angry at them, but I am just like, okay, if you need to do it, we can always take it back apart and make it. But I got to do this too.
Yeah.
The next thing that I would say, if you're in school and what was the question exactly, so that I can frame it
tips for folks in school, like how to excel, how to survive, like how to deal with any conflict or sexism or issues that they may have.
As far as the sexism goes, for me it's better to just deal with it head like straight ahead, like eye to eye, and a lot of times it'll just be like, oh, stop being such a girl about it, and I'm like, I'm a girl about it, and I got done a little bit faster than you, so does that mean that he's really good at it? And then I just walk away, and I just let him kind of sit with that. You'll be asked a question multiple times that no one else in the room is asked. It'll be like, did you do this? Yes, but did you do it? And I'll be like, why don't you verify for me? If that's where we're going with it, or they'll ask you a question and then tell you you're wrong, and I'm like, oh, well, last time you asked me something, I told you the answer was correct, so I was wrong, so you might want to go find a new resource, or I don't know, Google it. And I think part of that is Sassy Mom Squad, because I have teenagers at home the exact same age, so I kind of go into that mentality, and they're always like, okay, Mom, thanks, and they walk away like dragging their boots. But they know I love them. I bring them donuts and tell them that they're smart and successful already, and that I'm really proud of them, so that they can't get too upset. It's not intentional sexism a lot of the time that I've noticed. It's just the way that they react, and they just react without thinking a lot of times. And so I try to say things or ask them questions in a way that helps them to think about the flip side of it. Like, okay, but I've answered you before, and it's not meant a whole lot. So I think now it's time for you to find another way to get the answer, because obviously you don't consider me a valuable source of information. And then smile and walk away.
Yeah.
So it's just, finding a way to get to mirror what they're saying in a way that they're like, oh, that wasn't even what I intended or meant by that, but I can see how that would be a problem and kind of stifle things. So those are that, and scholarships.
Yes.
That's my third one.
Scholarships,
because finances are a huge part of this, and there's so many trade scholarships out there, especially for women.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to take advantage of it. It's there. They're very relatively easy to apply for, and a lot of times, especially if you're younger, it's easy because you qualify to apply for it. Yeah. But they're not taken advantage of, and it will help you get your tools, because tools are very expensive. Even if you get the bargain basement stuff, it will break. You have to have things to work on, so I know you're working on cars. Yeah. So you might as well find a way to pay for those. Yeah. If you can.
How good tips, by the way. I like your tips. How was COVID with school? I know you had some struggles with COVID in school, and I think there's a really interesting way that you kind of handled some of the obstacles.
So COVID with school has been interesting because we're not getting the customer vehicles, the live work that helps us feel more confident and build the skills in real time to understand how long does this take me. We don't know. I have no idea how long it takes me because for the most part we're working on vehicles that were donated to the school that have multiple problems and therefore for whatever reason do not run. We cannot verify specific issues on them. We can diagnose maybe a circuit or maybe just a specific component issue, but we're not able to go through and say, okay, now it runs good and I can throw that scan tool on it and everything's checking out and we're good to go and it goes off into the sunset with its owner. Instead, we're working on the same broken vehicle with the same faults over and over again. And it's kind of like a mouse running on a wheel rather than a mouse in a field. The mouse that ran on the wheel his whole life, he's done banged his head a few times, and he's probably not capable of taking care of himself outside of the cage.
She has the most fascinating analogies.
So just call me a little cage mouse, but I'm gonna get it together. Believe you me. Sorry, Bilky.
I can't take her anywhere. Okay, so back on task. Back on topic.
Yes.
So, your transmission class. Tell me about your transmission class.
I had an amazing transmissions instructor. He just set me free to do whatever, and that was one class specifically that COVID did not have an issue with because he took in a live vehicle. It needed a transmission rebuild. I was able to diagnose the fact that it was the solenoids that needed to be replaced, and then also the clutches were just old. They needed some help, some love. And so we went through, fixed the entire transmission. It took me twice as long as 4 times as long. I don't know how long. It took me 4 days by myself to work through what was going on, pull it from the truck, rebuild it, and then my shop partner helped me put it back into the truck. So that was a really fast experience because he's very smart and talented and a young race car driver himself. And having that instructor that was like, I know that you'll be able to do this client's or this customer's vehicle and that it's going to run when it's done. Of course, he scared the heck out of me and told me it wasn't shifting on purpose to scare me. He's also a really big prankster. So I had like a panic attack. But yeah, he just said, go for it. I know you got this. Here's everything you need, all the new parts. And if you need help, ask me, but everything in that book in front of you is what you need to know. And I went through and rebuilt the whole automatic transmission, and it ran and it drove off into the sunset. So sometimes, I mean, even with COVID, there's been some really cool experiences where I've been able to still learn quite a bit. Hands-on is always goal with blue collar in general. It was really hard being in some of the other classes because they were almost, the majority was online for a while, and I wasn't understanding the information, and really glad that we're able to do that now in person. So it's tough.
Didn't you take on some projects of your own to kind of supplement?
Yeah. So I have a Honda. It is an absolute horrible crap box. Trying to.
You're allowed to curse. It's okay.
Shit box. And and the 5th gear went out on it. It was kind of steadily having some issues with 2nd gear as well. And it ended up, I thought, oh, it's a Honda. I'll be able to find parts for it forever. No. I called a Honda specialist that specializes in the manual transmissions for Hondas. And was like, yeah, we don't make those parts anymore. So I got it out, and I'll be working through just removing the housing on the good one that I purchased. High mileage, we'll see. And swap housings and get it put back in. But it's fun because I can go home, teach my nephews and my sons, and they love it. And then I'm able to get some practice in and understand things for myself because nobody's taking the tool out of my hand, and I have to just do the research and get it together myself.
Yeah, I think that was something that I really appreciated in hearing, like in talking to you throughout COVID. Like there were times when you weren't getting the hands-on experience, you weren't getting the challenge, you were doing remote learning, and so that makes it really difficult. But you found ways to take on your own projects, and I think that's super important. Like school is what you make of it. And whether it's COVID, whether it's not COVID, whether it, whatever the case may be, whatever school you go to, what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it.
Very true.
And if you're willing to take on those additional projects like you do, to like learn more, to be curious and keep learning.
And I didn't know how to drive a stick when I started school, but I didn't want to be embarrassed about not knowing how to drive a stick, so I bought a car specifically so I could teach myself before they found out that I didn't know how to drive a stick.
I love it. And what kind of car do you have now that you drive that isn't your daily driver?
I have a 60 T-Bird. She's my pre-classic, and her name's Opal. She got an attitude problem, and she's sad.
The attitude problem is much like her owner.
Oh, yes, it is. That's for sure. And the sagginess.
Whatever. We've got a question from one of the viewers. What were our first cars?
Oh, okay. So my first car was the '61 Plymouth Fury that I brought up a little bit earlier. It's push-button transmission up on the dash. Fantastic. Mopar. Kind of ugly, but lovely at the same time. Looks like a whale.
Okay. And mine was a Volkswagen Bug, which is like the polar opposite of what she's done. You've got some of your fellow students in the comments, I see. Clay, having been in class with Jana, I gotta say she's an awesome classmate, always had a positive attitude, got work done, and did an awesome job, no doubt a great tech.
Thank you, Clay. Clay sees where I need supplemental help and brings things in for me to learn from. And that's exactly what I was saying about how the future of being in the industry is so bright, is that he was like, you know what, I can tell this girl has some weird fascination with the AC system. I'm going to bring her everything from when I was in AC so that she has these visuals that I could put together and like use on the cars. And I was the only one walking around with them. Everybody's like, what's that? I'm like, stuff. You can use it. You want to use it.
It gives me so much faith to hear your stories. Like, I feel like, it's so normal for us to hear about like the shit talking and the giving each other a hard time and the pranking and playing jokes on one another. And it's not just, men doing this to women. It's men doing this to men. It's women doing it to women. It's like everybody in the industry. Like, it's this accepted kind of not niceness that has been really tolerated in the industry for a really long time. And it's really encouraging to hear these stories of younger people who are not shit talking each other.
No, not, and then
like
also
treating each other
very
respectfully
and very, very protective. Like Clay's actually very protective of me and just won't let anybody talk to me any kind of way. So that's fantastic. He's like, hey, you good? And he'll just make sure. You good, Jana? I'm good. Am I good? Not always. But it's sweet, and I'm thankful because those are the people that keep me in the industry. Because I'm not kidding. Like, sometimes I'm 1 foot out the door. I'm like, why would I do this to myself continuously, ever? But I love cars, and like Bogey said to me before, if I took the money out of the equation, if that wasn't part of the determining factor, what would I be doing? What would be my dream? And I would still be building cars. That's what I would absolutely be doing. I can't say that about anything else I've ever done. I would definitely not be doing nails. Know that for sure.
Well, cheers to that.
Yes.
Cheers to you taking the plunge, to being scared and jumping anyway, to following your passion. We have 1 minute left. We can go a few minutes over, but because this is the important final question. To the younger version of you out there, to somebody who wants to be doing what you're doing, or even to somebody who is in their 30s or 40s or 50s, thinking about, I want to do something different with my life, what are your words? What are your final words of inspiration?
Nobody knows you but yourself. And if you have any inclination whatsoever that something like this would be for you, give it a shot. And do it with somebody that, get somebody that's like safe to learn from, that's not going to make you feel bad. But find ways to either rule it out or fall in love with it. Because it will haunt you for 18 years if you do not. And then you'll meet amazing people like I have that have just solidified and brought me to a kind of a new plane of thought with it, or a new way to look at it from above. But definitely give it a shot. I mean, the only thing that you can do is gain experience and know how to do things on your car. That's the only thing that would happen if it didn't work. So that's fantastic. We all need those kind of skills. Everybody needs to be a little more self-reliant.
Absolutely. Cheers to that. Cheers to you. Cheers to everybody at home. Thank you guys for tuning in so much. If you would like to check out Jenna and what she's doing on her journey, do you post any of your art on that page? Somebody asked earlier where they can check out your art.
I think I have one drawing on there, but
Okay.
Warnke's Emporium is a wild, mystical land where I am still a child. So if you want to go on there, Warnke's Emporium on Instagram.
Yes. So her main Instagram page is obviously going to be linked in this live once it's posted up on my IGTV and in my feed. And you can check out her art on Warnke's Emporium, and you can show her some support and some love. And I hope you guys enjoyed this happy hour, and make sure you come back next week for another interview with another awesome trades woman. And I appreciate you all. I appreciate you for joining in.
Thank you, boss.
Cheers. And be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you. Thanks.